Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm speaking to you from the pulpit of the congregation. Today is the Jewish festival of Purim, the Feast of Esther. Today also happens to be March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And so today I'm going to speak to you about, quote, an Irish Jewish sampler. Purim is a joyous holiday, but in certain years it falls in times of sadness, times of worry, times of concern, such as is the case this year. Without neglecting the important causes of the day, including the pressing need to restore international peace and to rebuff the current assault upon innocent civilians. Nonetheless, we can give ourselves at least a brief respite in the spirit of Purim. It doesn't often happen that St. Patrick's Day and Purim coincide. The Jewish calendar does not follow the 365-day year of the sun, but the Jewish lunar calendar, even so, has a 19 solar year larger cycle. 19 years ago was 2003. So it's not surprising that year Purim began within 24 hours of what was the case this year. In 2003, Purim began on the evening of March 17th, rather than what we had this year, the evening going into March 17th. In general, this coincidence only happens once per generation. In recognition of that rare moment, here is a wee bit of an Irish Jewish sampler. Purim is a time for merriment, and perhaps these morsels of information will give us something to smile about. Jews were reported in Ireland as early as 1079, but there was never a large Jewish community there. A Sephardi Jewish refugee from Portugal, William Moses Anias, was elected mayor of Youghal in County Cork in the year 1555. A Jewish community numbering in the hundreds or the low thousands only emerged, though, as a result of the mass migration of Jews fleeing Tsarist Russia, fleeing persecution and the army of the Tsar, which happened in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. There were nearly 5,000 Jews in the country by 1904, which was nearly the maximum, 5,500, recorded in 1946. After the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the number of Jews in Ireland progressively declined, as some went to Israel, some went to the United Kingdom, some came to the United States. And once the community had become quite small, it shrank further because of assimilation. Today, only a few synagogues remain open, 3 in Dublin and 1 in Belfast. The most prominent Irish Jewish supporter of the Irish cause in the War of Independence was Robert Briscoe. He returned to Ireland from New York to aid the cause and became one of the principal lieutenants of Michael Collins, the George Washington of Irish independence. Briscoe's Jewish identity grew stronger as Nazism and anti-Semitism ran rampant in the 1930s, and he lobbied strenuously, alas unsuccessfully, to move Ireland to support Jewish causes. His involvement in Irish life was such that he was elected Lord Mayor of Dublin in 1956. His son, Ben Briscoe, continued in that tradition. Father and son have been benefactors to Dublin, they bequeathed its now iconic statue of the legendary fishmonger Molly Malone, which tourists in Dublin always see. It's on the corner of Grafton Street. To be candid, the statue depicts her dressed as a fishmonger by day only, perhaps plying an older profession by night. If you look at the statue, you'll understand. The turmoil of the Nazi period provoked some echoes in Ireland. Among the 10,000 Jewish children evacuated from Nazi Germany and Czechoslovakia in the Kindertransport were some who took refuge in the Mill Isle Refugee Farm in County Down, Northern Ireland. Across the border, the Prime Minister, Eamon de Valera, insisted that the 1937 Constitution of the Republic of Ireland include a clause guaranteeing protection to the Jews. The clause, by the way, was removed in 1953 because the language of that 1937 Constitution granting special status to the Roman Catholic Church was likewise removed. In the Second World War, Ireland maintained its neutrality to the bitter disappointment of the Allies and of the Jews seeking to mobilize as many as possible to fight against Hitler. The traditional anti-Judaism of certain quarters of Roman Catholicism came to the fore in those hard times. And yet, at the individual level, there were Irish contributions to the defense of Jews against Hitler's genocide. For example, the Irish priest Hugh O'Flaherty and the ballad singer Delia Murphy worked together to hide Jews in the Irish church in Rome, San Clemente. After the war, lingering anti-Jewish prejudice in the Ministry of Justice made it difficult for Jewish orphans to be resettled in Ireland until Prime Minister de Valera overruled his Ministry of Justice and admitted 150 Jewish children. Few in numbers, Jews have enriched Irish life in many areas of culture, society, and economics. Just a few examples from the world of sports. A Jewish immigrant from Riga, Latvia, Philip Baker, a cap maker by trade, was a 4-time Irish national chess champion in the 1920s. Under his leadership, the Dublin Chess Club won the Armstrong Cup, the oldest continuous chess league championship in the world, in 1926 and 1929. The Dublin Jewish Boxing Club, which was housed in the Adelaide Road Synagogue basement, was the home base for Jerry Kostick, who represented Ireland in 1949 and 1953 in the Maccabiah Games in Israel, and who, as a student in Trinity College, Dublin, won 2 University Athletic Union titles. Jewish athletes were instrumental in the successes of Irish national teams in cricket, rugby, and football, we would call it soccer, and table tennis in the first half of the 20th century. The Irish and the Jews also shared a diaspora experience in places such as the United States. And their diaspora experiences often intersected, especially in the large cities of the eastern seaboard of the U.S. I commend to your attention Billy Murray's 1912 Tin Pan Alley song, quote, "If it wasn't for the Irish and the Jews." And I'll share with you just one stanza of the lyrics. But still I often sit and think, what would this country be if we hadn't been like Rosenstein and Hughes? You'd surely have a kingdom, there'd be no democracy if it wasn't for the Irish and the Jews. I myself have fond memories of several visits to the Dublin Jewish Progressive congregation about a decade ago. The melodies were similar to those known in Ashkenazi synagogues around the world. As Jews, we immediately celebrated our kinship, and yet theirs was a Jewishness with a distinct Irish brogue. Their Irish eyes were smiling, along with their heartfelt Yiddishkeit. What a beautiful synthesis. May God bless our brothers and sisters in the Emerald Isle. Erin Gobra, Am Yisrael Chai. And for today only, instead of being Rabbi Michael Panitz, I'll be Rabbi Michael O. Panitz.